Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, I am happy to join the debate. I rise, as always, on the strength of the people of the District of Scarborough, Mount Grace, and I stand in support of the budget as presented by the Honorable Secretary of Finance, Secretary Roberts, who did a wonderful job in presenting a first budget, who had the fortitude to say that the time to change the structure of budgetary presentation was now, in her first and maiden presentation, and took steps to change it. Only a woman of strength could do such. I stand because the Chief Secretary has asked me to serve in the Division of Infrastructure, and I think that I have served in the last 3.5 years with distinction. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, what we inherited at the Division of Infrastructure, if I can find 3 words: chaos, confusion, and corruption. The minority again speaks and leave. There's a growing trend on that side where all 3 of them speak and leave and are not about the business of Tobagonians, but want to sell to the idea that somehow Tobago must choose them again after rampant corruption and failure. What we inherited in his absence: procurement realities that told us that there was simply no procurement process. When you come back to the house 2-3 years later, maybe every single year, he comes to the house to try to sell to Tobagonians that somehow this administration hasn't procured according to the rules and we have selected people, sole selected. What we found at the division, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, is evidence that suggested that absolutely no tendering took place. Hundreds of millions of dollars went out to contractors without even a single tender. I have evidence now in my file at home where 18 contracts were awarded to one contractor in the same day. Not only, in the day. And he comes every time talking about road contractors and this contractors and who is friend. I have evidence. Projects that should cost $2 million on the books for $16 million. Not me say so. All the auditors saying so. So sometimes it's hard to just sit and listen. He criticized his smart app. Well, I want to tell Tobagonians that the app crashed because the Minister of Public Utilities just wouldn't, the previous Minister of Public Utilities just wouldn't sign an MOU with the Works Division, and the amount of holes that WASA creating crashed the app. When previously, when the PNM was in office in Tobago, they had an MOU with the Division of Works for $5 million to repair earthen excavations on the road caused by WASA. They refused to even discuss it with us, choosing instead to patch the holes themselves, thinking that somehow Works Division or the TPP will go into some legal battle with them. When it got too much for them, they just stopped. This is what we inherited. And so it is hard sometimes to sit and listen to the minority as they try to sell the hypocrisy of the PNM on Tobago again. I don't want to take away from my colleague, but he spoke about housing, and it was so laughable that he came back to me as a former director of settlements. It came back to me that in their 21 years in Tobago, they built on average less than 5 houses a year. 15 of those years, they had P&M in Trinidad. And they come with this indignant righteousness that we will do this and we will do that. When? So, I wish to be short today. The list of accomplishments at the Division of Infrastructure, we had to come up, my team and I, with a philosophy that would underpin the change management systems we were trying to implement, given the lack of financial resources that we met at the division. We inherited the most debt across the THA, and we were in fact struggling. We have been struggling to meet the debt requirements, as well as to get the public sector, the public services servants in the division to perform, while trying to use procurement strategies to create a sense of capital expenditure in Tobago. And I think, all in all, we have done that. We have restructured the technical staff, moving from a hierarchical structure to a matrix structure to allow for the benefits of project management and functional management to work together, and so we could benefit from that. And we have seen that across Tobago. We have the development team in-house, building out Castara, building out Runnymede retaining wall, building out Idlewild, paving up and down the place. That is because we have been able to inspire the teams to finally take action to the benefit of Tobagonians, instead of having them sit down, pay them, and then give a contractor, one of our friends, the money. That's what we have done. And we have been very successful at it. We have taken on our responsibility to reduce the employment figures across Tobago. And both minorities criticize the 10-on, 10-off. And I have evidence on my phone and my email. All of them is trying to send people. Every single time they're trying to send people. I'm happy to report that the 10-on, 10-off program, we have employed a total of 2,558 persons. 2,558 across 62 villages across the island. This is the first time that has happened. When we inherited a division where we could find no books of registered requests for employment. When they centralized, move all the books from all the districts in Speyside and Roxborough and Mason Hall, and centralize them in the main office, and nobody could find them because they was calling all their friends, Hida, Tida, and Dow, to come and get them a work. We have been so transparent that every village, well, I don't know how many villages we have, but 62 of the villages that we've had, we have employed people from. And so that's a major deliverable for us. The member talk about the rent and lease program, and that we've moved the rent and lease from 10 million to, I think he said, 32 million. Outright lies. The rent and lease allocation has been between 18 and 20 million dollars since before we came to office, and every cent of it was expended on contractors whom the THA before us and during our time have benefited. And when we took a decision to procure equipment to improve the performance of the division, the minority vexed. But this is what they were supporting. And I'll give you 2 examples. We've rented chop saws at the division from one vendor for 5 years. A chop saw that costs $2,500 approximately. We've rented a chop saw for 5 years at $45,000 a quarter.
What?
For 5 years. We've rented a demolition hammer drill, and since we've been there, we've bought 8 generators to try to reduce this expenditure.
No, they could eat, you could talk and run.
We've rented backhoes, and you know, this is a good one. Long-term, permanent rented of backhoes. The cost per quarter, $648,000. We've just bought, in our time since we've been in office, 3 backhoes at $1.8 million for one. In 1 year.
They make it like that.
1 year, this could have been reduced. And it goes on and on for equipment that have been used by the staff, essentially for staff that are working 4 hours a day, if so much, and we rented equipment by the day that causes us to spend this kind of money per quarter. And yes, the liability to the division went up because in 2022 and early 2023, we had a lot of rain, and therefore we had to increase the amount of equipment we rented, and also to increase the performance of the division, we had to rent more and more equipment so that the teams now could produce, because we were doing things in-house, and so that went up, and we took a decision because we wanted to maintain fiscal discipline. We took a decision to purchase our own equipment. Because I want to tell members opposite that the purpose of budgeting in a country is to strategically manage public funds, ensuring efficient resource allocation and promotion of economic stability. This allows governments to plan, to prioritize, and implement policies and programs while maintaining fiscal discipline. This is what we have been about. And this new ethos at the division really became necessary because of a reduced budgetary allocation from Port of Spain in the years that we've been there. The member talks, he comes to the house, and he wants to make every debate about the 2 or 3 bills that they have. Every debate. Now, suddenly the PNM are the gurus on autonomy and and self-determination for Tobago. Deputy Presiding Officer, from 2010 to 2015, the average allocation to Tobago from the national budget was 4.92%. I want to say that again, you know. For the 5-year period from 2010 to 2015, under the UNC-led coalition at the time, 4.92%. The average allocation to the THA from 2016 to 2025 has been 4.34%. That 0.052% would have given the THA, if they had just stuck to what the hated UNC did in their 5 years. In 2016, it would have given us an extra $365.4 million. In 2017, $310.3 million, just sticking to the average. All the way through, cumulatively, $3.1292 billion is what they took away from Tobago. That is the opportunity loss that they talk about. And comes to the house Every time he has an opportunity, he comes to the house to say that they were promising 6.9, 6.8 minimum. When the law says give you 6.9, that they refuse. They took out to Tobago in order to give Mr. Jack $70,000 a month in retainer, plus a salary somewhere else. That is what we have been had to endure in Tobago. We are just asking for a meager $200 million for the division of works. $200 million. Understanding, Mr. Presiding Officer, that capital expenditure is crucial for a country as it represents an investment in long-term assets that enhance public service and stimulate economic growth. When you are running a country, if you focus on what the member for Roxborough Argyle seems to always want to focus on, bread and butter and low-hanging fruits and so on, if you focus your attention only on that, you cannot move the economy forward. You need capital expenditure projects in order to stimulate economic growth in the hope that these investments contribute to increased production. What have we been producing in Tobago in the last 20 years? Absolutely nothing. Because the focus has been on maintenance issues and social issues. The same low-hanging fruits that people seem to want only to focus on. We have to find a way, and I want to say this to Tobagonians, we have to find a way to get the right mix in our budgetary allocations to ensure that we're expending funds on projects that is going to stimulate economic growth and that will increase our production capacity. And we can't do that by building health centers and community centers. We have to find the right mix. And from where we've sat, we've started the process of doing that. The division of sports, the facility at Blackrock, is an investment that is going to increase economic growth once we get the arrangements right to bring international teams to Tobago. That is the kind of project that we want to do, that we want to focus our investment and expenditure capital on if we need to change the economy that we have. And that is what we have been about. The Secretary of Agriculture of Food Production went at length to explain why the mega farm idea was what we required to do, because we need to spend money on things that increase productive capacity and revenue generation. The member speaks about the projects that we have built. And yes, we have at the division went through the procurement process and built out 3 or 4 special mega projects. We have reduced the travel in Scarborough by building that bypass from Smithsfield to Dutchford. That was on the books under the P&M for $40 million. We came in, tendered it out, and built it for $19 million in 19 days. As a matter of fact, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, we have built more roads in Tobago than they built in 21 years. You hear them talking about connector here and connector there. In terms of miles of roads, we have built already in our 3.5 years more roads than they have built in their 21 years. He come here boasting about roundabouts. We've built 2 roundabouts in 2 years when they've built 3 in 21 years. And they still come in to say, almost the Tobagonians, put we back. On what basis? To bring back corruption and thievery and mismanagement? And so, the Ministry of Works received in the last 3 budgets in excess of $4 billion in development budgeting between the development program, PSIP, and the Infrastructure Development Fund. In excess of $4 billion. In the meantime, the Division of Infrastructure has received less than $150 million. Every year, in those 3 years, $120 million is for wages. So you can't have it both ways. You can't come and criticize and say we ain't contracting out work, and then tell your friends to give us no money. Since we've been in office, the development budget has reduced from $100 million to $41 million over 3 years. This is what we have to grapple with. So just on the evidence of what the UNC did in their 5 years, we have to be the most hopeful we could ever be to say we can have an increased budget. And so the budget request is based on the population size, but it is the minimum we are requesting. And we are requesting that because we feel that now we have an opportunity to get our starting part of the fair share that we've been asking for. Because under the PNM, every Tobagonian knows that he wasn't only getting 4.03. Secretary London tried for years. The same Secretary Jack tried for years. They present budget for $5 billion, $6 billion, $4 billion. And every single time, whether they have a PNM Tobagonian in Prime Minister House or not, every single time, the PNM in Port of Spain give them 4.3 or 4 point something, between 4 and 4.3%. No benefit to Tobago whatsoever. Whereas the people they like to hate give us 4.92% on average over 5 years. So we are happy at the division to report that we are now excited that there is an increased possibility that the sovereign guarantee to support the Port of Scarborough project, the Scarborough Development Project, will be granted. Initial discussions have been fruitful and positive, and we expect that before this financial year is done, that guarantee will be completed. We expect before the end of this fiscal, Friendship Development will be completed. We will have tied into Storby Local Road, and the project will be fully opened. And I, for one, look forward to that. That is a project, again, that's been on the PNM books since 2009, 2010. It would have been started by the TPP and finished by the TPP in less than 4 years. And that is the hurt, that's what they're feeling, the hurt that we could achieve so much in such a short time. We are on the verge of awarding the contract for the development of the Friendship Estate. That should also be done by the end of July, after a lengthy negotiation that would see the estate being developed by private funds, being repaid by private funds, and the THA benefiting as a PPP investor from the proceeds of the project, with little or no expenditure by the THA. in the next fiscal, we are hopeful, given the request that we've had and the mindset of the new government, that we'll build out a roundabout, and I'm only going to speak of 2 or 3 projects. We'll build out a roundabout at the intersection between Cove and the Church of Roosevelt, the Claude Noel Highway. Going north so we can have access to FCB from on the inside and ensure that we are reducing the possibility of accidents on that road. We are going to start the Scarborough Integrated Road Network. I keep having to find a way to manage my own time. We are going to build out the Scarborough Integrated Road Network. Hopefully for the first time, we will have a flyover coming over from Sangsas Hill, going over into that property on the side where was has that well, and loop around back onto the highway. The much talked about Bad Rock realignment will also be completed once all is well with the budget. And so, in closing, I want to say to Tobagonians that we have started on the road to building out a new Tobago. You have put us in office, and we have delivered. We have delivered beyond measure, beyond compare, and the time is coming soon when you need to put us back, because history will show that the other side cannot, will not deliver.
For Belgarden, Glamorgan, you may now join the debate.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer. Allow me to start by thanking the electoral district that allowed me to sit in this place on this side of the horseshoe. That is Belgarden, Glamorgan. Allow me to also congratulate the Secretary with responsibility for finance for a splendid first presentation of a budget, and allow me to also congratulate her on not having us there for 4 hours, and therefore probably more important than anything else, also limiting the time that the responder is able to speak. And allow me to also say to our newly minted members of Parliament who happened to be speaking at the same time that our Secretary with responsibility for finance was speaking. Tobago West spoke earlier in the day, and then Tobago East spoke later in the evening. I want to go on public record as also congratulating them and thanking them for representing this island in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago in a way that would allow us to stand on this side, and as my colleague Secretary James spoke about, having a renewed set of hope that because we actually have a proper representation for Tobago East and West in the Parliament, and we now also have a government that seems to at least respect the Tobago House of Assembly, the potential is great. I would like to take a little bit of time, and I'm actually timing myself so that I will not need more than the 30 minutes, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, to go back a little bit and to talk about one quick thing, because the member Minority Leader, again, spoke about us not having plans and all of that. The Secretary with responsibility for finance basically started her presentation reminding us that we were using or we are building out a strategic development planning pathway that we will use over the next couple months to create this plan that we will use to develop Tobago over the next 10, 15, 20 years. Now that is important because again I want to place on record that the last developmental plans that we had for the island included the Comprehensive Economic Development Plan. The first iteration of it was from 2006 to 2010. The second iteration of that was from 2013 to 2017. And I want to place that specifically on record so that those on the other side who keep talking about us not having a plan recognize that for quite a bit of the time his colleagues were there. They did have a plan. But while I sat on the other side of this horse shoe, I remember at one of these budget debates, I actually went through the CEDP 1 and CEDP 2 and highlighted the fact that the members on the other side had not actually accomplished more than maybe 20% of what was in those plans anyway. And that is why, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, I wanted to take a little bit of time to chat with the people of Tobago about the process that we will be using. Because what we do not want, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, is a repeat of what happened then. We actually want to have a plan that is actually used. And for us to have a plan that is actually used, it means that we need to take our time to develop the plan. And the development process for that plan needs to be one that is grounded in science that actually works. What does that mean? And again, I promise I will be very short. We currently have a framework that includes us having 21 what are known as development agenda priorities, 21 of them. If you think about everything that we would need to do in Tobago to get us to that greatest little island on the planet status, it would fit under these 21 development agenda priorities. But instead of having some random person come in who will then say to us, this is what we think you would do, the Office of the Chief Secretary, the planning unit, and so forth, kind of worked on a framework that would allow all of us who are on the ground, all of us who are experiencing what public service is, all of us who are part of the Tobago House of Assembly, we are the ones who would say, hey, you see this is a problem. This is a problem that would prevent us from getting to greatest little island on the planet status. And therefore, these are the things we need to do to get us from our baseline, which is where the problem is, to greatest little island on the planet status. And that includes, again, thinking about what the problems are, looking at what the policy solutions are, looking at the legislative framework, meaning what are the laws that we may need to put in place, what are the laws we may need to amend, what are the policies we may need to put around the table. And then based on that, developing the plan that says, this is what we will do, this is where we will go. Of course, as I said, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, the aim is to get us to that grand vision of Tobago being the greatest little island on the planet. And I've decided in the 22 minutes that I have left to use 3 specific examples from the Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection of how we could do that. Let me go back and highlight the fact that when the Secretary with responsibility for finance called the numbers associated with each of the divisions, and I heard the division that I have responsibility for, health, wellness, and social protection, and she said the $846 million, I clutched my pearls and I said, oh my goodness, I plenty money. And it's like, that is all, we really asked for all of that. But it is important to note that because the division is responsible for the provision or for the policy that leads to the provision of health care, over 571 million of that is to go to the Tobago Regional Health Authority, which is a huge chunk of that money. Now, why is that important? I plug it here because people continually believe that because when you go to the hospital or to the health center, you do not pay you don't have to pull out a card, you don't have to pay, you don't have to pull out your insurance, you don't have to pay for it. People don't recognize that healthcare actually costs a whole lot of money. So even though my division is actually one of those that is taking a large chunk of the budget, I again have to agree with my colleague, Secretary James, when he speaks about us having to figure out that balance. Because we can't keep spending money on the things that does not allow us to bring the kinds of return, the kind of economic development that we will need for us to get to greatest little island on the planet status. And just so that we are aware, of the $145 million that my division has requested for traditional development program financing, again, about 81 million of that goes to the Tobago Regional Health Authority because of all of the things we need to do. So let's go back to these 21 development agenda priorities. As I said, I will chat about 3 specifically. Priority E speaks to a modern and efficient healthcare system. A modern and efficient healthcare system. So we have to ask ourselves, what is a problem? What do we currently face as a challenge that is preventing us from being a modern and efficient healthcare system? What is that? I get the calls all the time because somebody went to accident and emergency at 8 a.m. and at 8 p.m. they are still in accident and emergency, and they are calling me. So that is the problem. What do we need to do? Well, it has several things that we are looking at, several things we've already started, and several things that we will continue to implement going forward. One of those is really a review of what happens at accident and emergency. Who sees you when you come in? When you get to the gate and you're screaming, Lord God and murder, who actually interacts with you? Is that person the best person to interact with you at that point? Or do we need to change the triaging system so that we have a doctor look at you almost immediately to then determine whether you need to go in quickly or whether you can sit and wait a little bit so that we can treat with the others that may be real emergencies. We need to also look at diagnostic tools. And one of the things that is critical is you hear people talking about the fact that we had to wait for the X-ray, or we had to wait for the CT scan, or we had to wait for the MRI. So a big chunk of that, about $20 million of that, Deputy Presiding Officer, will actually be going towards beefing up these diagnostic tools. We already have on island the CT scanner that is being installed as we speak. And the other tools include MRIs and other X-rays and other types of machines that we will need to ensure that as soon as you get to A&E, you are able to be diagnosed quickly so that we know what to do with you. We also have a situation, Madam Presiding Officer, or Deputy Presiding Officer, sir, apologies, where those of you who need to actually be warded, we are now running out of space. We are running out of space because when we went from the old fort, we actually reduced the number of beds in the hospital. So we moved from a hospital with 100 and something beds to a hospital with 100 beds. So we reduced the number of beds. Unfortunately, we have to figure out how to get the bed count back up, taking into consideration what is happening at Roxborough, in addition to what we actually need to happen at Scarborough. And of course, we need to expand what happens at primary care. Because if we get you in the health centers and we get you to be better in the health centers or through the health center system, you will not need to get to the hospital. By the way, the member for Roxborough Argyle, who as normal comes, talks and leaves, spoke about the fact that there were so many people who were educated and were not getting employment. And one of the things we've actually been able to do over the last couple of years is beef up the cadre of medical staff at the Tobago Regional Health Authority. And this is why, for example, it costs over $40 million every month to run the service, to pay them. Over the last couple of years, we've hired at least 10 specialist medical officers, at least 10 registrars, about 40 house officers. These are, vast majority of them are actually Tobagonians who went to medical school and came back and were employed. We hired about 70 registered nurses and about 50 enrolled nursing assistants, 2 speech therapists and other speech and language therapists, and speech and language and art and occupational therapists and pharmacists and all of those people. Again, the vast majority of those are Tobagonians who went to school and came back. Let me also talk very, very quickly about Roxborough Hospital. Because again, the members of the minority continue to talk about what happened in Roxborough and what is happening in Roxborough and that they built Roxborough. Yes, 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 sure. The structure was built, but we are faced with the fact that the structure was not purpose-built, because part of the development that we would need to do to expand the kind of services we need would include actually expanding what happens at Roxborough. Because for some reason, we did not think about the fact that if we have doctors and nurses and all of these professionals working in a facility, we would actually need a place for them to go and sit down and eat and actually be a human being when they are not interacting with patients. So we need to treat with that. But yes, the Roxborough Hospital was opened basically as a health center in 2021 because it was only primary care. It was basically moving the health center from out the road into the health center, into the hospital facility. In 2022, though, that is when we started actually having secondary care services there and tertiary care services, because we actually have the dialysis chairs there. By the way, we've been able to complete about 3,000 dialysis sessions in Roxborough since we started providing that service. It is good, but it is not comforting. It is not comforting because we're still running out of chairs. We still don't have enough service, and we still don't have enough service because people are losing their kidney function, and people are losing their kidney function because they are diabetic, and because they are hypertensive, and because they have all of these other diseases that is leading to kidney failure. I would actually like one day to come and report less of these numbers. We have also been able to do additional things. Of course, we all know about the cataract surgeries that have taken place there, and we have over 2,000 cataract surgeries being done over the last couple of years, and the calls keep coming in. So we are thinking about having to do it again this year to allow people to see, to simply allow them to see. So we have the problem, we have to think about how we can actually work towards solving the problem. Sitting with the Tobago Regional Health Authority, we are about to officially launch a strategic plan that was done at the Tobago Regional Health Authority with all of these things in mind, because it was actually the employees, the people on the ground who were a part of it. So when they speak about doing this and that and the other in 2 years, in 5 years, they know that that is what they're doing because they are the ones who put it in the plan. In the 11 minutes that I have, I'll speak about the other 2 areas. H, protecting and caring for the most socially vulnerable in the society. That's the priority. That treats with the Department of Social Protection. The Department of Social Protection is actually one that we just started working on expanding what it does. It actually is a group of people who do so much work, but because of the kind of work they do, it is difficult for us to publicize what they do. It is difficult for us to put up the pictures and to put up the names and so forth because of the kind of work that they do. But we've been able to restructure that department, and one of the things that we are working on is to figure out how to get the services to the people who need the services even faster. So the director is currently working with a team to build out an actual crisis response team, so that it doesn't matter what time of the day or night something happens, weekend or not, there is someone who can respond, and we have the systems in place, including all of the systems that relate to procurement. And my assistant secretary is also showing, because we have these meetings. We actually had a meeting this week where we were there arguing, trying to figure out how to ensure that we do not breach any of the procurement rules, but still provide the service and provide it quick. Because somebody who needs food does not need to hear that the procurement people ain't do the PO yet. So we are trying to grapple with these kinds of things so that we follow the rules, and so that my goodly member has no other reason to send any document to OPR with my name on it. We are trying to figure out how to do this balance, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, because we need to figure that out. So we have that. But part of what I wanted to highlight was the fact that within our recurrent budget, and I'm probably saying this more for my good friend, the Secretary with responsibility for finance, when we are reducing our recurrent budget so that we can put into DP, our recurrent is where we spend the money for those grants. So we are hoping to get at least about $11 million to be able to provide all of the different kinds of grants that we need to ensure that we protect and care for the most socially vulnerable in the society. And the last one I want to talk about relates to the Department of Public Health, where the priority K speaks to sustainable urban, suburban and livable village communities. And part of that has to do with waste management, for example. I want to say that part of the Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection, since it was the Division of Health and Social Services when I became a member as, I can't remember what my position was in 2006 or 2007, we had the litter eradication program that was part of the division then. It has taken quite a while, but we have finally gotten to the point after all of those years where we are regularizing those litter eradication program workers. So as of the 1st of July, they will have an increased salary. they will be able to go on holidays and take sick leave and get paternity leave and get maternity leave and all of those things. After all of those years, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, we are finally there. But the next step, because remember we spoke about what we have to look at the problem. The problem is that we still have quite a bit of litter happening. We still have quite a bit of unhealthy waste management practices. So the next step would be to actually have litter wardens on the island. So that is part of the plan for next fiscal, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer. And we are working through the policy and we are working through the legislative requirements. Because, you know, when we read the law says that a particular minister is responsible for precepting, in essence, the litter wardens. And when I called the former minister back then, the minister said, really, I never do that, you know. So we are now working through. By the way, the current minister said, hey, that's what the law said, no scenes on your list. Again, political will. Yes. Political will. But the last thing I want to speak about, Madam Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, is the fact that Priority C speaks about a digitally driven competitive society and economy. And it is sad that I am standing here at this hour in, June of 2025, and I cannot report that I have moved further in the digitization of social protection because, again, of the lack of political will, or what I may call plain old bad mind, that has caused that specific project to be halted. The good news, Madam Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, is that we actually spoke with the Minister with responsibility for AI, and we have a commitment to continue. We have a commitment to figure out where we were and what needs to happen. And some of the principals that the Chief Secretary spoke about earlier have already started reaching out saying, hey, we feel we're getting the green light, you know, let's get back to the playing field, let us get back to implementation so that Tobago would get to the point where you do not necessarily have to come in to apply for the food card or for rental assistance. You can do it on your phone. And that is going to cost us about $4 million or so next fiscal if we don't get the grant, because there are possibilities of us actually getting some grant funding to do it. And the Tobago Regional Health Authority, we would be able to extend the digitization that is happening there, because my aim, it's not going to happen overnight, my aim is for us to be able to go to the hospitals and to the health centers, and when they are asking for your file, they don't have to literally run and get your paper file. They can pull up a tablet and your medical records will be on a digital platform. So, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, I just wanted to say to the people of Tobago, when I listen to my colleagues and when we really sit down and go through all that we've been able to do over the last 3.5 years, I am actually, you know, there are times you feel a little daunted. But when you listen, and moments like today allow us to really listen and reflect on what we've been able to do, I feel good. No, we have not done everything that we've planned. No, we are not at the point where we really wanted to be. But when you think about all of the obstacles that have been placed in our way, when you really think about all of the obstacles that's been placed in our way, colleagues, I want us to give ourselves a tap in the back. Thank you, 3:45. We really need to give ourselves a tap in the back. We really need to say to ourselves, give ourselves a little bit of grace, because we really have done a decent job. And because we have done a decent job, I think the people of Tobago are seeing that we have done a decent job, given all of the obstacles that have been placed in our way. And they will continue to support this Tobago People's Party administration. And they will not behave as if those on the other side who came today and spoke about we will do this and we will do that and we will do the other, as if you were not there for the last 100 million years when you could have done it. They will stoop their teeth when they come to their homes, because they are finally seeing development and they are finally seeing us getting to that grand goal of Tobago being the greatest little island on the planet. And I want to thank Tobagonians in advance for continuing to give us the kind of support so that we can provide the services that you require on this island. I thank you.
Member for Mason Hall, Mariah, you may now join the debate.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. I'd like to say a hearty good afternoon and thank you to the people of Mason Hall, Mariah, who have voted overwhelmingly to put me here to represent them, my family, the Lenhan crew, my new crew, and the entire Tobago. I'd also like to say congratulations to the Secretary of Finance on her maiden budget presentation and a job well done. I will be brief. I will not take 30 minutes, Deputy Presiding Officer. A brief history of the Division of Settlements. And as my colleague, the Deputy Chief Secretary, just said, the hindrances that were put in our way as representatives. The division had 8 administrators in 3.5 years. So you know there is no continuity. We had no line item for housing in the division. The only funding we used to receive is for grants program. And only $1 million were allocated to each of these grants program. So you see, we all started this job as OJT, managing at this level. We stumble, we fall, but today I'm full of exuberance. And my colleague will know why in a little bit. Some of the achievements by the Division of Settlements, Public Utilities and Rural Development. Under Public Utilities, as the goodly Secretary for Finance indicated on Monday, the largest street lighting exercise in history, costing $1,106,000, where 90 families were impacted. Another $1,032,000 investment was made to improve the lives of other areas in Tobago and Tobagonians. Under the grants program, from 2022 to present, a total of $33 million has been distributed in the 4 grants program, approximately 2,350 persons or families impacted by these grants. There was the introduction of the HART program, the Housing Assistance Repair and Transformation, after we had moved away from the Client Relation Unit. The HART unit was formed mostly to serve vulnerable Tobagonians, to enhance their quality of life and build community resilience. Because, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, as we know, we have a lot of persons out there living in squalor. I am really proud to report about the Rural Development Unit, a unit that there was a lot of hoopla. Every Monday morning there, the salaries were established in the paper. They always talk about the salaries of these employees. But they are the ones who are really delivering to the division on a number of initiatives. There was a $2.9 million investment, where $1.445 million we contributed to this initiative from the THA, and Habitat for Humanity contributed another $1.445 million, where 75 families were impacted in the roof repair program. 32 minor roof repair completed, and 35 approved for initiation. 4 homes out of 5 completed under the roof retrofitting and solar panel and rainwater harvesting program at a cost of $176,000. 4 locations have been selected for washroom facilities, because you know around our islands we have tourists traversing our locals and there's no rest stops on the island, so 4 washroom locations were selected at Mount Dillon Hill, Speyside by the Lookout, at the entrance of Gilpin Trace and Goodwood. We are pleased to announce that Mount Dillon construction has started. Conversations with stakeholders to contract two play parks, one in Mariah. And Mr. Presiding Officer, for the first time in Tobago, the Rural Development Unit is in consultation with other stakeholders to construct a sensory haven, all-inclusive play park for persons who are disabled, blind, deaf, and autistic, a first of its kind that we are looking to bring on the island. Because too often you have these children just stuck at home, hidden away, not socializing with the general public. Settlements and land distribution. I feel like a child awaiting a new bicycle at this time, because everyone knows I have a passion for housing. You see, the minority leader, the representative for Dalles Spring Rim, lamenting all over because after the presentation Monday, one of the first division he jumped on one of his lives was settlements. We haven't delivered any home. But as my colleague Secretary James said, how could we deliver homes? You sat here in Tobago, your handlers in Trinidad gave us $4 million in 4 years. And that was $2 million last year and $2 million this year for housing. You know, the Minister for Housing and all other agencies in Trinidad received almost $2 billion for housing in Trinidad over 4 years. And you gave us $4 million. Additionally, right, we have also distributed 5 townhouses that the PNM said there were none in Adventure. They are all occupied up to yesterday. One of the owners came, collected their keys, so they will be going and occupy that shortly. We have been slow, as my colleague, Dr. Faith just said. We started construction of 2 affordable homes. 3 started in Milford Court, and we hope that another 5 will be completed by the end of this fiscal. We have distributed over 140 parcels of land thus far. Deputy Presiding Officer, I now want to address the issue of housing in depth. The member for Dalles Spring Rim always asking Tobagonians if they are better off under the TPP today. And I want to tell him, if they were releasing money to the THA, Tobagonians would have had a better standard of living today. Everything for him is about some gate, email gate, ambulance gate. We want to tell him that dog don't hunt anymore. The only person who was successful at that is my constituent now and the former Prime Minister. Because once he's Mason, he's my constituent. If he needs anything to be done, he has to come to my office. He boasts about PNM achievement from 2001 to 2021. Why was this possible? It was possible because of the foresight of Mr. Hotjoy Charles and the DSC regime and the Dispute Resolution Commission. They came in and met the money there. If the then Hotjoy Charles had the type of money the PNM received, Tobago would have been far more transition than how it is today. But you see, he failed to realize that some of us have been in the politics a long time. He boasts about all the projects that they have delivered and what they have done. I used to work for the minority leader, Mr. Asho Jack. And from our office, I was there seeing Professor John off the morning when he came and asked, where is the financial complex, where is the Victor E. Bruce? After $12 million, there wasn't even a pillar. Where is the building he asked? So we were looking over and seeing him and with his crew walking around. But he's boasting about Victor E. Bruce. He's not talking about the wanton wastage that they did on the library and the Victor E. Bruce complex. But that's gone. You know, there's a saying, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. The member constantly comes here and mislead the public with his utterances. For example, 15 workers at settlement sent home at Christmas Eve, when there were only 2 workers affected by restructuring. He is constant with telling spurious lies to the public. He said in his latest press briefing Monday, Deputy Presiding Officer, that I had a draw for 200 persons at Riseland. I listened to you well. We only had 54 units to be built at Riseland. But just for inflation or hyper, I don't even know the word to call it. But this is what he's going to explain to the public. You see, Deputy Presiding Officer, the organization which the member for Darrell Spring Wing is a part of, I'm going to give you some words that I could describe them in. Evil, sinful, wicked, vile, villainous, devilish, demonic. I'm sorry for calling them all those words, Deputy Presiding Officer. I retract. But these are how these people behave. That they are so righteous, they are righteous than thou. He said in that the PNM created a land bank, Reyes Housing Development, Bell Garden, Colon, Bremen, Castor, Adventure. All of them, no completion certificate. But here, Deputy Presiding Officer, here how they were grace, how they delivered those. The same UNC that they say is with friend down in Trinidad. In 2012, a PNM-led THA and a PP government in Trinidad, $108 million for housing in Tobago. In 2012, Newsday, the 24th of March 2012, $108 million given to the THA for housing. So how you ain't gonna build a house? And you want to give me $4 million and ask me, how come you ain't build a house? And this is a Tobagonian that was at the helmet. And as I always said, it's the most Tobagonians that have been sitting up on the lower house was in the last 5 years of the central government. We had about 7 Tobagonians there, whether independent senators or government senators. And nothing. And you sat there and want to know why YT ain't deliver house. You talk about building so much, 1,000 units, and can't deliver with $4 million. Wait. But as I told him before, if you aren't invited to sit at the table, you must be part of the meal. Because clearly, he's not in conversation with the upper echelons of his party. Yeah. Because you know of the fiscal starvation is why we didn't get all these projects off the ground. It's not that the lack of desire to do them, because we don't have money. But Madam Deputy Presiding Officer, I'm going to housing now. In the depth that I want to go, I must publicly thank the chairman and deputy chairman and other members of the board of directors of the Tobago Urban and Rural Housing Company, the interim general manager, the specialist project manager, and the other members of the team. You see, we have taken this long. I really felt at some time that I was underachieving. But what could you do without money? The Bible tells you, King Solomon said, money solves everything. Not some things, everything. Answered all things. Shervan Housing Development. We have come to a point now, Deputy Presiding Officer, where the company is ironing out a few last kinks in that arrangement so that that housing project, which is a design-build finance, valued at $493 million to construct 447 units at Shervan. So we could see the start of that probably by the end of July, in August, so that contract could start. The Adelphi Housing Development, the RFP to develop the 50 parcels of plots of land and the bridge is going out on Friday. I want to get to Riseland because he said I had 200 persons drawn in 2022. Deputy Presiding Officer, I want to first apologize to those persons whose name was selected in that draw because they think that the kickback was the THA or the Division of Settlements. But we learned that the Trinidad central government, PNM central government, did not access the money from the IDB loan. I want to say it slowly. Upon this new government taking office, we learned that the money was accessed. $16.25 million for Riseland housing development. Calculate that at 6.6 per US, 110 million TT dollars. Sat in Trinidad under Ms. Camille Robinson Regis and not released to the Tobago House Assembly to start housing. I want the recipients of whose names were drawn to hear that loud and clear. $110 million withheld by the Minister of Planning from the Tobago House Assembly to start the Riseland housing development. Thank God. It's one thing I'm sorry about, Deputy Presiding Officer. I wish this general election was in 2022, just after our election. Tobago would have skyrocketed because we have a government in Trinidad that is, they're more sympathetic to us than what the former government was doing. But all is not lost. You know why? When we were thinking that we weren't getting the IDB funding, we sent out a new RFP for Riseland. And instead of 54 units, we have now moved it up to 130 units. Duplex and townhouses. That RFP went out almost for 64 days. I'm getting to a point, Deputy Presiding Officer. The member spoke of contractors in Tobago want a fair share, and we decimated the construction sector. I wish he was here. You know, early in my tenure as Secretary of Settlements, I was sitting with a businessman, a friend in Tobago, and he was talking to them on the speakerphone. And contractors were saying they were told not to bid on no contract in Tobago, otherwise you will not get any jobs in Trinidad. You know, this time when we sent out the RFP for Riseland, we had 18 contractors who wished to get packages to tender. I could name a few. Hummingbird Holding Limited, Amigo Construction China Limited, North Star Consortium, NH International, Namalco, California Stocko, Ashby General Construction, Prospart Engineering, WL Zion Realty and Construction Limited, PR Contracting Limited, Active General Tenders Limited, Owen Smith Construction Limited, Calco Limited, General Technology Company Services, Vanrox Architecture Engineering Construction, Ramkaran Construction Service Limited, Cromarty Construction and Joining Service Limited, Megas Holding Limited, Kai Engineering and Construction Limited. Deputy Presiding Officer, for my recollection, about 5 or 6 of these companies are Tobago-based companies, which I was pleased that they submitted. You know, the tender closed yesterday. The officers did their due diligence and they opened the packages. You know, out of that 18, only 4 of them submitted tenders, and the 4 of them, not one from Tobago. So when they say we decimate in the construction industry, and the contractors not tendering, how could we give them the job? This is why I'm saying he's not informed. When he makes his utterances, he's just here to make mischief in his space. Not one Tobago contractor. So we have to now evaluate these 4 contractors and see which one fits the bill. You know, the same member who talk about we're not giving contractors work was given land since 2016 or 2018 by my good friend, the director. Today, he ain't put up 1 pillar on the land. So if you wanted to help the GDP and provide employment, start to construct. Start to construct. That's how we start. But you know what we're doing for those persons in court in Riseland who are impatient? Deputy Presiding Officer, I recently went through the list of lands that were given out since 2015. And I'm certain I found about 15 to 20 persons who are not interested or will not go forward. So what we will do is give them the option. If they cannot wait till these homes are constructed, you could now unpay this paltry sum they cost, because they cost as low as $48,000, $60,000. So they could buy these lands and start their own construction. But I'm getting to the juice of the matter, Deputy Presiding Officer, and my colleagues. I did not say it before, because I learned of it yesterday, and I kept it close to my chest. The Tobago Urban and Rural Housing Corporation and the contractor selected has finally met their agreement, and the contract for the construction of 120 units at Adventure will be signed on Monday. "40 single units, 2-bedroom, 20 single units, 2-bedroom, 20 3-bedroom, 10 duplex, and 5 3-story buildings, 4 units each building, a total of 120 units at a cost." This is design, build, finance again, Deputy Presiding Officer. The contractor is bringing into this space $157 million. So, Deputy Presiding Officer, that is the good news I have for my colleagues, especially all my colleagues in Tobago West, because most of this construction will be starting, and we hope that we could get it off the ground. It is our wish that Secretary Kerr and I, we could at least, if we could deliver 100 units before the next election is due, that will be a great achievement, because as Secretary James said, they build 5 houses per year for 21 years. So I am pleased to announce that I'm to the whole of Tobago to understand and to hear this news. So all the contractors, all these young people that you're seeing that we're not employing, that there will be work coming into this space. There's employment opportunities, and you don't have to depend on the government. So this gloom and doom you like to preach to Tobagonians, there are ways to get around telling your colleagues in Trinidad not to fund the THA, or not speak up on Tobago's behalf, on the THA's behalf. So we have got all these development, housing development, they are coming to this space with their own money. Their own money. So I am really, really excited. It took a long, I apologize, but I am at that point today that I am elated that as of Monday next week, or could be before, that this contract could be signed and we could start some work and start some construction of housing units for deserving Tobagonians. Because heaven knows we have about 8,000 persons in our database. So we'll start to go out now and advertise to the Tobagonians. Everybody cannot receive 5,000 square feet. We have to change our way of living. We're going to be using alternative materials to construct. It's not concrete and steel, but it's someplace that you could call home. So put your house in order, because the engine has started. I thank you.
Member for Lambo Lands, you may now join with you.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. First, I want to thank the people of Lambo Lowlands for the opportunity to stand once again in this House to present, to contribute to this budget, and to represent them. Deputy Presiding Officer, asking permission of 47.2 because it has parts of my contribution I have to read. And please, I hope I'm not being rude, but if you could just keep your head up so I won't call you Madam Presiding Officer. I can see your beard. First, I want to stand here to congratulate our Finance Secretary on a wonderful job she done in the budget. Apart from trying to pursue a new path, she significantly decreased the speaking time. So we didn't have to sit there for 5 hours, although it's good thing she's talking, but on the flip side, you didn't have to sit there for equal time to listen the opposite of what she was talking. Deputy Presiding Officer, the theme of the budget, accelerating growth, anchoring fiscal stability. He points to the unwavering commitment of this administration to making the island of Tobago the greatest little island on the planet. Deputy Presiding Officer, the Division of Community Development, Youth Development and Sport requested a total of $273 million for fiscal 2025-2026. And it's as follows. $43 million for CPEP. On the recurrent, we have $123 million. And development program, $107 million. The division is charged with the mandate to be the vehicle and catalyst through which the social and economic development of the people of Tobago revolve. Further, the division has a pivotal role to play in supporting the realization of the Assembly's vision to this end. The division works collaboratively with all stakeholders, such as the faith-based organizations, the community-based organizations, and the non-governmental organizations, including sporting and youth-based organizations in the fulfillment of his mandate. Let us get back the time when you're turning the page, Deputy Presiding Officer. The division, like many other divisions within the Tobago House of Assembly, continues to face significant challenges in the execution of its remit. Some of the notable challenges include, inter alia, inadequate funding for programs, projects, and initiatives. As a consequence, resources had to be reallocated to areas that are deemed critical. Human resource. Staffing has been a significant challenge. Many vacancies are yet to be filled to preserve institutional knowledge and ensure continuity in the flow of work. This is a priority for the division, and we are working assiduously with the relevant key agencies to remedy this challenge. Deputy Presiding Officer, the financial resources allocated to the division for the period 2022 to 2024 are as follows. Recurrent expenditure allocation, $56,867,540. Development program, $16,632,300. Funding for CPEP, $31,200,000. Recurrent expenditure allocation, $97,766,000. Development program, $31,669,400. Funding for CPEP, $35,033,000. Fiscal 2024 recurrent expenditure allocation, $103,735,000. The development program, $38,690,964. Funding for CPEP, $32 million, $32,900,000. While the financial resources were inadequate, through prudent fiscal management measures, the division was able to deliver on its mandate. Noteworthy accomplishments or record of delivery, Deputy Presiding Officer, the accomplishments of the division from inception of this administration to present are a testament to our dedication to accelerating growth and anchoring fiscal stability in our communities. We trained 45 tutors in the effective use of various platforms, promoting a hybrid mode of delivery for our vocational skills training program. The minority was alluding to the fact that we are training nobody. We coordinated and concluded phase 2 of the retooling and revitalization of community councils, leading to successful election of 21 unit councils and the re-establishment of the Tobago branch of the Trinidad and Tobago village and community councils after more than 15 dormant years. We trained 952 persons for the vocational skills program, successfully meeting our target. I just want to pause a bit with this. Over the years, Deputy Presiding Officer, a lot of the previous administration, not shuns, we have alluded to the fact about how much people we train. And this administration saw it fit to look at this program and decided that there is no use in training a whole lot of people, that after each cycle you could boast and say you train 900 people, how much 100 people? But at the end of the day, not even you, the institution that trained them, could hire them because there is no proper certification. This administration has partnered with the NESC, and these trainees here on in will be properly certified and prepared for the job market as we go forward. Deputy Presiding Officer, we initiated the tender protest for critical projects, including the Montgomery Walk-Around Track, the lighting of the Patience Hill, and soon to be completed Louisdale Recreation Ground. The phase 1 of the fencing at the Bonaccord Recreation Ground, which is phase 2 of that work, is drainage, complete the fencing, and the surface work. I want to stop a little to elaborate a little on the. Many times you hear it echoed about the condition of our playing fields, and you even hear the minority moan about the conditions of the facilities and whatnot. Deputy Presiding Officer, if you come into a space and on coming into that space, there is massive need for repair, seconds. If you come into our space, Deputy Presiding Officer, and there is massive need for overhauling works, repairs, and maintenance, he says something that who was there before you wasn't doing anything. That's the only reason why you have so much to do. And we never back off from the work we have to do. But there are some factors that had to be taken into consideration with this work that had to be done, which we will do. The average person that works on the recreation ground, who were hired before we came into office, and I am blaming the workers because they want to work and they get to work. They weren't trained. So that's part that contributes to the condition of the grounds. But I have news for all who complaining that we are embarking on a massive training program to train these people, skill them properly, and bring them up to the grade to where they should be, that our fields could be better maintained, because we'll have people for the first time who actually know what they're about. Some works to be embarked on. We're going to restart the work on the Charlottesville Community Center and Pavilion. We reintroduce the Lalon Gordon Sport Fund, where we assisted many Tobagonians in their endeavors, sportsmen and sportswomen. We hosted the annual World of Work program, benefiting 105 participants with job training and placement. We hosted the Youth Can Cook 2 initiative in conjunction with the THTI, with the winning team receiving scholarships. We held the Youth Engage in Fishing initiative in Castara involving 20 young persons. We restructured the monthly paid staff establishment. We increased the wage of the CPEP daily raking workers, alongside establishing new policies and operational guidelines, which include ongoing training for these workers, that they not only sit there and paint stones when the day comes, they actually could be put in use to actually help in the development of this island. Also, it must be noted that in our first term, we increased the salaries of the CPEP workers, so all those families could enjoy a much higher standard of living. This is for the first time this has been done in more than 21 years, because we know the salary that these people are working under. We launched the Tobago Faith-Based Council, distributing $200,000 in financial assistance to 7 faith-based organizations. We train 1,370 persons in vocational skills. A remarkable 44% increase from the previous year. Deputy Presiding Officer, I listened to the minority earlier, and he was very clear to tell you what economist Vanessa James was saying. But he only picked out part. I remember the very Vanessa James standing on a platform and saying that that PNM government wants to have Tobago like another love. Until why you ain't repeating that? You see, they have a very convenient memory. And as I was talking about training just now, we embark on a lot of training programs with national sporting bodies, that the coaches here could be better equipped. We actually did about 3 different cycles of the child safety, because that's a big thing in sports now. In child safety, you have to be certified at that to actually be a coach. And you know, I even did it, even though I had spent more of my time in the constituency, sometime in this house, but it still seems that the way these people continue to behave in this house, it was important that I take that child safety program, because it seems like we have 3 misguided, misled children on the other side. We collaborated successfully with the Fashion Glam event, showcasing the skills from our vocational training program. So this collaboration allows us to expose the people that we actually train. Deputy Presiding Officer. Things to embark on. We're going to embark on upgrade works at the Mount Pleasant Recreation Ground. This will include drainage and surface works. This is soon coming. We did work at the Cutler Hall Recreation Ground when it had the bad weather. You know, it had a big landslip. And we had to bring in a contractor and construct a wall. That was completed. And the ground is a safe place for the residents there to play again. We also facilitated sports camp for 720 children and sporting events for differently abled people. We're not only focusing on those people that we perceive should have the opportunities. This administration campaign on the premise that the differently abled people must have as much opportunity as anybody, and we did that, Deputy Presiding Officer. Even recently, we hire a couple of them in the CPEP program. So we aren't just talking, we're actually doing what we say we're going to do. We also recruited 104 field workers in the CPEP program. And these workers has been receiving ongoing training. As I said, we don't want to see the program down the road that all they do is paint stone. We're going way beyond that, because they have to play their part also in Tobago becoming that great little island that we all vision. We partner with the Trinidad and Tobago Prison Service to offer vocational skills training to incarcerated citizens, fostering rehabilitation. We secure executive approval for the establishment of the Electoral District Fund. We talk about it a lot, but Deputy Presiding Officer, I will tell you one thing. You could dream as much as you want, and you could promise as much as you want, but it takes cash to care, and if you don't have cash, sometimes you just can't care. A lot of things that we might have promised before, and when in promising them, we had to even watch how we was promising in the past. Because we have some people, while we promising the citizens goodwill and development and trying to go forward, they were promising themselves that all you ain't getting none. Hopefully we are past that gate. And I hope that with good collaboration and good communication with this sitting government, that the gates for Tobago will be open, the gates for development, and the gates for going forward in enhancing Tobago and putting us where we should be, side by side with our sister island. We collaborated with the Division of Finance, Trade and the Economy to track the impact of the vocational skills training program on past participants. We provided comprehensive career development training to 679 young persons through the ACE program, career development training program, and the summer internship program. We further provided career development opportunities for over 604 young persons through the World of Work program, the Pro Youth Expo, and the Trade Track program. We collaborated and we facilitated and assisted in the successful execution of the 2024 Special Olympics Beach Game, hosting over 12 regional countries, Deputy Presiding Officer. And not to mention, these people came with their traveling party. So they had us to get hotels because we couldn't put them in Branston. They had us to get hotels, they had us to get all the things that will benefit the business community in Tobago, the hotels, the restaurants, the taxis. Everybody was able to see a little light with that event. We hosted a certification ceremony in partnership with Playable Caribbean, providing level 1 coaching certification for persons with disability to 50 individuals. Deputy Presiding Officer, that is how you prepare for the future. The CPEP employees, including, we provide substantial capacity development opportunities for CPEP employees, including handicraft training, PPE, brush cutter, and hazard identification and control training for hundreds of workers. We completed refurbishment and maintenance work to several division facilities, including the Belgarden Multipurpose Facility, upgrades at Glamorgan and Lesquito Community Centers. Lesquito being completed, and Glamorgan, there's a little glitch which we're slowly getting out the way and should be up and running in the very near future. We did upgrade works, bare maintenance work actually on the Lambo Recreational Facility. Phase 1, the phase 2 should be started. The Patient Hill LED lighting program was started and completed. The Pembroke Youth Center, and we actually have works going on now on 3 hard courts. We started out with 4, the Bethel one being completed, and the Speyside, Wim, and Codler Hall soon to be completed in this month of July, Deputy Presiding Officer. We provided financial assistance totaling $247,086 to 16 athletes, notably supporting Ms. Makeda Bain, the #1 under-14 tennis player in the Caribbean. We acquired inventory management and fleet GPS software for real-time information and increase efficiency with the implementation currently at 81% complete. For fiscal 2025, the Division of Community Development, Youth Development and Sports pledges to work assiduously with all stakeholders towards a greater focus on community empowerment, enhancement, and transformation to this end. Some of the initiative programs and projects that we will embark upon in the upcoming fiscal period are as follows: the World of Work program, the Tobago Youth Awards, the Trade Check Initiative targeted vocational skills program for young persons, infrastructure development and enhancement. We're going to cut through all for once and for all. We're going to seek to have the Bacalet Indoor Sporting Complex restarted. We have to redo, we have some works to redo in terms of the drawing, because as we know, the people who was doing this work before, the previous government, somehow was very bright in getting a drawing for 3 courts, paying for 3 courts, and all we saw was 1 court. As governance P&M style. So we are doing over the design and some of the legal things which we hope to get through quick, because I must point out that the Chief Secretary and he could bear me out, sat in a meeting with UDCOT of that day. And because we tell them we wasn't satisfied with what they was doing out there, they just simply tell us we're not doing none again. That was what they did. And they know who backs they said that offer. They know in whose support they said that offer. So we're going to get to a place, we're going to restart that project. As I said before, the upgrade at the Mount Pleasant. And Deputy Presiding Officer, I must pause again to say that all the lighting, the lighted fields that some people like to boast about that we inherited, each and every one of them was like a setup to the people at Tobago. Who in this day and age, knowing that you live on a little island surrounded by sea, not river, sea, where we know metal will have a hard time withstanding the rigors of the sea blast and whatever, and you have all these poles planted around these grounds and they can't come down. and you don't have the relevant lift truck and whatever to get up there to service them. Servicing was out of the equation. What you do was go up there when a bulb blow or something happened because it was too costly to do routine servicing. But this administration will find a way to get it done. If you look at the work we did at Patience Hill and we are doing at Louisdor, those lights can come down so you don't have to go up there to service. You bring it down. Just like with this administration, you don't have to go up to reach us. We bring in good governance down to the people at Tobago like never before. Thank you, plus the 35 seconds you take from me. So, Deputy Presiding Officer, we also moving to refurbish. We have a building at Mount Irving that the division has responsibilities over. We're going to refurbish that and use it as a handicraft area. So our people who we train could get some way to display their products. We also want to move in this calendar year, not this fiscal, this calendar year, to get with the program of handing over the community facilities, the centers and the multipurpose facilities, whichever we had agreed on. We're going to stick to a word and we're going to start handing them over to the community councils that they can manage and we can collaborate with them, that we could have a smooth running operation. The community councils that all of them form back. When we send the cry out, they have answered and we're going to continue to stick to the word we gave them and we're going to start handing over the keys to these facilities and let the community, as the Chief Secretary said, let the community manage some of these facilities. So that is in the pipeline. And the areas of certification that I alluded to earlier in my speech with the NESC, the areas that they're going to be certified in, proper certification, is going to be in plumbing, AC and refrigeration, electrical installation, masonry and tile laying, and television and video production. So those people, when they come to train by us, in our programs, it wouldn't be a case of just training and go and get a certificate and a certificate of participation. You actually have something that you will be able to become employable. Deputy Presiding Officer, on these initiatives, I underscore unwavering commitment to the theme accelerating growth, anchoring fiscal stability, laying a robust foundation for the vibrant and empowered Tobago. We are confident with the support of this August House and the support of all of Tobago, these ambitious yet vital goals can be realized. Before I wrap up, I couldn't help but, you had to go through a whole day and then for city member for Roxborough Argyle. He just play hide and seek in the house. He come, he talk quick, talk up big, he eat and he go away. He can't help it. But one thing stood out for me when he talk about he get keys for the land. You see what I have to do the child safety program? I think we seriously have some confused children sitting on the other side. Probably ought to change the seating arrangement. I ain't getting 35 seconds. Yes.
Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, I rise to request additional 10 minutes of speaking time to the member.
10 minutes of additional speaking time be given to the member. All in favor say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Member, you have 10 minutes of additional speaking time.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. If you hold your chin up and see the beard, I will take 5. Yes, so in winding up, there's no doubt in my mind, Deputy Presiding Officer, that this administration has exceeded expectations. This administration has delivered beyond the norm. And sometimes when people see things coming like that, you know, if you live in a place where you don't get water in the pipe, and the pipeline are custom being dry, when they turn on water, your line go bust. I feel the minority busting with, I don't know if it's joy or regret or whatever, but they're busting with something on that other side. We will continue to serve the people of Tobago who elected us to serve. And for some reason, some people keep confusing 4 with 21. Even if they was counting it like play, where 2 and 1 is 3. So I can't say the miscalculation there. But this, I want to stand here to congratulate each and every one of my colleagues, starting with the Chief Secretary for his leadership that he has provided not only to this team but Tobago. I want to congratulate each and every secretary and assistant secretary and councillor for the role they have played since we have been in office, because I tell you, this work ain't for the faint-hearted. And sometimes it becomes a thankless job. But we knew that coming into this work. Because when we look at Tobago, you look at it from far and near. We saw the problem, we heard the cries, we came into office and we indeed conquered. And we're going to continue to go upwards. We're going to continue to work for the people of Tobago who elected us. And we're going to continue to look forward, because you know when you look back at who was governing, what has happened when you look back, pillar of salt. We are going that way. We're going to continue to look forward. And we're going to continue to be led by the Honorable Farley Chavez Augustine. He's going to take us to the place where we need to be. Tobago needs to be in a place that he has the blueprint. He's going to guide us, and we're going to work together to make Tobago the greatest little island on the planet. I thank you.
Oh. I can't break this for 30. If no one else will present, I will call on Councillor Patel and Roberts to wrap up the debate.
Go ahead. Deputy Presiding Officer, I just want to take this opportunity to thank the Honorable Chief Secretary for affording me the opportunity almost exactly 1 year ago to serve as a councillor and Secretary of Finance, Trade and the Economy in this August administration under which I now work, reside, and am now appointed. I also want to thank the presiding officer, the Honorable Chief Secretary for his leadership as well over the last year. He has also given me the opportunity to leverage on certain projects. He has also laid the foundation for me as Secretary of Finance to advance some of the projects that he has started while he was Secretary of Finance, Trade and the Economy. I also want to extend thanks and a gratitude to my colleagues for the support over this year. I think that it was very overwhelming, And what you have seen produced on Monday is testament of your overwhelming support and your contributions to this budget, because this was not all entirely my presentation, but this was a presentation that came from each and every one of you so that we can compile such an excellent presentation. Deputy Presiding Officer, it is unfortunate, though not surprising, that the poor minority leader who sits all by his lonesome lacks the sense, the experience, the exposure, or even the political discernment to know that Tobago has rejected the PNM not only for 21 years, but we are now on 24 years of rejection. And I think that that deserves some thumping. He continues to come to this honorable house and cannot seem to develop any debating skills. I'm only here for 1 year, and what I've seen is pre-prepared speeches with the same rhetoric. He has an obsession with the Secretary of Infrastructure here and the contractors that are being paid on the road, and that is just it. He now has a recent obsession of ambulances, and that is what I have seen here today. And then talk about what we will do. I don't know will do when, how, with whom. The people of Tobago have spoken, and I don't understand why he came today with a manifesto when the people have outrightly rejected the PNM for the last 24 years. If I might say so myself, the presentation that was enunciated and articulated by me was insightful, strategic, it was coherent, visionary, well articulated, comprehensive, and you know, I spoke to the public, so I'm not just speaking and gloating by myself. I oftentimes take telling from people. And what the layman on the street is saying is the first time they're able to understand and follow a budget presentation, both because of its content and the length of time it took to present a plan to the people of Tobago. I also want to boast of the Chief Secretary's leadership. We now have a strategic planning pathway from 2025 to 2045. And it also articulates 21 development agenda priorities that will lead Tobago to becoming the greatest little island on the planet. And that plan has started in this fiscal that we are now debating here, fiscal 2026, where Tobagonians will now see the plans for the period 2025 to 2045 being rolled out for the next 20 years. You know, I take credit for the approach taken by the minority leader. His approach was one where there was absolutely no way he could go to that budget statement and criticize. What he did was talk about their failures for 21 years. He spoke about payment to contractors for the road, this infamous road, and you know, I'm happy he highlights the road, because that's a road that we take pride in trekking on and driving on every day. And we will continue to do these types of projects in Tobago, notwithstanding the failures that we experienced for 21 years. We really started in a minus, because we started with liabilities of over $1 billion. This is the only administration that has inherited liabilities of such a quantum. And I'm very serious when I say that we have started in the minus. It is not funny. It is not just talk. And I am telling you as Secretary of Finance the difficulties that we have. That when they say we have the most in numerical terms or nominal terms of the resources or releases from Trinidad, we have the largest liability to also contend with. And the financial instruction says that we must pay off the commitments from the previous years first. But I want to tell Tobagonians the difficulties in paying off the inherited development program liabilities that we are still currently faced with. When I sat as Chief Management Accountant under the Office of the Chief Secretary was the Secretary of Finance, and with the experience that I had, he wanted to find the best way that we could deal with these resources. So what we had to do was go through the invoices for every single liability that we had on the books for about 9 contractors, about 9 or 11, I can't remember. And what we did, the largest contractor, we went through the invoices and we saw double invoicing. You know what double invoicing means? Double invoicing means that they said that they built a road in Mason Hall from point A to point B, and it cost $5 million, and that's invoice number 1. Invoice number 4 has the same road in Mason Hall, point A to point B, with the same amount of money. So there was a lot of double invoicing. We also found that they're saying that they built a road with bitumen. And what we do in the assembly, people don't know, before we pay an invoice at the Division of Infrastructure, the engineers have to physically go to the road, physically go to the project, because they have to certify the invoices. And some of these invoices had bitumen or asphalt, and it was clear that they were concrete roads. And the result of that was that we had to now call in the contractor and say, listen to me, these are some of the encumbrances. These are some of the inconsistencies that we are seeing with your invoices. And therefore, what do we do? You know what the contractor said? He was most surprised that this kind of business was operating under his nose. And it's for that was one of the reasons why we could not pay some of these invoices. Apart from the fact that the resources, the development program resources, were not sent to the Tobago House of Assembly. So for the minority leader to stand and say that we have these liabilities and we don't want to pay, we don't just pay invoices. I am a Secretary of Finance, and this is an administration of accountability and transparency. Yes. And therefore, I heard him also say for the loan guarantee program, there's an entrepreneur that we should be calling. We don't call people. That's not the type of business that we do. We have a loan guarantee program also where persons must go to the banks. And then we stand guarantee. We don't call any entrepreneur and say, hey, we have this. That is P&M style. And therefore, that type of governance no longer operates in the THA and the Tobago space. Deputy Presiding Officer, I want to also say that I don't think the minority leader understood, or he doesn't have the intelligence and ability to conceptualize a long-term development plan for Tobago. The plan also articulated a matrix for the next 5 years, and it was clear in the budget statement. And I want to say, if the minority leader wishes to lead, he must first learn. Yes. And if he wishes to influence, he must first understand. Whoa. And I find that it was very unfortunate that he came here without even listening. He didn't even have to read the budget statement, as I read every word. So he could have just sat there and tried to soak in something and find something about the budget presentation to come and criticize. But what he did is brought, as I said, the failures of 21 years under the P&M, the road and the contractors that were paid for work that they did, as well as ambulances. I find that very unfortunate. And for those persons who are looking on and wants to have a career in politics, I don't think this is a good example for people to try to emulate. I want to remind also the not remind, I want to speak on the point of the data. He said that the data that I presented in the budget was suspect. Made sure I wrote down the word, what he said, is suspect. And Deputy Presiding Officer, I want to say that the data for the last 25 years was done by a study. There's a study of survey of business establishments done by the Division of Finance, Trade and the Economy, of which the Secretary has no business in. The Secretary does not get involved in. There's a department has been doing that for the last 25 years, so the data resides, or the data is collected by that department, and therefore, for the last 25 years, that's where the data came from. And the data is actually used to provide context, credibility, and transparency in the budgeting process. The inflation data were provided from the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, and also the labor market data comes from the CSO. So to say that the data that I presented is suspect, I think that for the last 25 years and 21 years under the PNM, the data may have been suspect as well. It means that we probably have to look at the data provided over the last years. But I must say this, I have confidence in the three entities that have presented the data for us. We have the data for the last 25 years, and I therefore want to say I have confidence in the Economic Management and Research Unit, the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, and the Central Statistical Office. I would like to put that on record, that I do have confidence in the figures that they have presented to us. Deputy Presiding Officer, as I wrap up the debate today, I want to tell the people of Tobago that, you know, there were lots of challenges, and I really don't want us and my colleagues to harp on those challenges. Sorry. To harp on the challenges that we have faced over the years, because we have done a fantastic job, and I want to echo the sentiments of the Honorable Chief Secretary and Member for Lansome Palliative Speyside, that we have done such a fantastic job, notwithstanding the financial challenges we faced, the political interference, fiscal subjugation, all of these things, and we were still able to achieve for the people of Tobago in 3.5 years all the things that, and I couldn't even include all the accomplishments in the statement, because that might have taken me to 4 hours. And I did promise that this budget statement will do. But we intend, this administration intends to publish, make a publication of all our achievements, because I think it is noteworthy and representing for the people of Tobago. We cannot afford to confuse motion with progress. Tobago people deserve better than what we have experienced over the last, I would say, 24 years, because we had the People's National Movement at the central government level. And I would like to put on record here that with what I'm seeing here, that this seemingly cooperative government in Trinidad at the central government level, I feel hopeful, I feel confident that the plans that we have for Tobago under the Strategic Development Planning Pathway, the 21 development agenda priorities, all the policy, the macro policies that were outlined in the budget for fiscal 2026, that we will be able to achieve the short-term and long-term objectives in Tobago becoming the greatest little island on the planet. Deputy Presiding Officer, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I want to thank my colleagues as well for your contributions to the debate and for the support for this budget 2026. I thank you very much. My apologies. Be it resolved that this House approve the draft estimates of revenue and expenditure respecting all functions of the Tobago House of Assembly for the financial year October 1st, 2025 to September 30th, 2026. Copies of which were laid on the table at the earlier stage of the proceedings. Deputy Presiding Officer, I would like to ask that we move to the committee stage. I think it would be off camera, so I will now ask that we move to the committee stage so we can approve the draft estimates of expenditure and revenues. Thank you very much.
Honorable members, we will now move into committee stage. Visitors in the gallery, you must leave, and cameras will be turned off.
Tobago contractor who would like a lot more to be done for?
Tobago contractors, mainly the self-employed people, the small people, and that is most important for me.
The Secretary of Finance laid out in a motion the expenditure for Tobago's fiscal 2025 to 2026 expenditure. We have been going around and having conversations with a lot of these local stakeholders about how they feel about the allocation for Tobago's expenditure.
We're looking for betterment in the island.
And as a business proprietor, how do you see that benefiting Tobagonians?
I see plenty people coming back home during the winning the election. But you coming back home to make it better for Tobago.
Is anything in particular that you wanted to see from this particular budget?
Yeah, man. I would like to see some kind of factory going up. Then you can right now, really check it right now. Well, mango in the place, and no factory to really produce it own right here.
Focusing on the farming, fishing, they could boost these things here because this was mango season going there. We have mangoes wasting in Tobago. In Trinidad, they're getting 3 sour mango for $20. So these simple things could help boost agriculture, boost exporting, bring in revenue for we.
Particularly after I saw the article come out recently that spoke to Guyana being food secure, the only food secure nation in the world right now. And I think Guyana having 800,000 people, Tobago only having 60,000 is a smaller target to hit, but it requires investment, effort, support, and financing. So I'm happy to hear that they're going to make a shift in the direction of putting more energy and effort into agriculture, particularly right now where we see the global climate is shifting significantly. We need to protect ourselves.
Right, and she asked the central government for 5.9% of the national budget, which is what is supposed to be allocated to Tobago. How do you feel about it?
I think that's a good figure. I think it represents a figure that would be a fair distribution based on not only the amount of people on the island, but in terms of the particular economic situation of Tobago as a small state with which the main point of traffic passes through Trinidad all the time. So it makes the cost of goods in Tobago more expensive, things like that. So I think it's a good figure. I think it's a very good, solid figure.
There you have it, Tobago. A snippet of the views of Tobagonians about the 2025 to 2026 fiscal budget presented by the Secretary of Finance. Also remember, on Thursday the 26th at 10 a.m., the budget debate continues in the House. So you can either tune in or come in. But remember, don't miss it. At Tobago.
For our bicentennial celebrations, we are going to fully immerse you in Tobago's legislative history. We are going to show you the importance of understanding oneself for the present and future development of our people. And for us, it all starts here. The celebration starts today, April 23. This marks the day that Governor F.P. Robinson laid the foundation stone for construction of the building in 1821. It took 4 years for the building to be completed, and it is considered to be one of the best examples of Georgian architecture in the region. Today, it stands uptown Scarborough for 2 centuries, and you get a chance to touch 200 years of history at this year's Night of Mystery, Saturday, 26 April 2025. It's a tour of the building, but with a twist.
We kick off the first event for our babies, our future. We wanted to find a unique and creative way of including our preschoolers in our celebration. Little Voice, Big Heritage gives our preschoolers the opportunity to do a little research with the help of mommy, daddy, and of course the teachers, to script a verse about anything legislative and present it to an audience. We'll even help by providing a breakdown of our legislative history from 1825 to 2025 for you to choose from.
The month of May is going to be jam-packed with activities for our young debaters as the highly anticipated primary plenary caravan. Our staff will visit all primary schools and begin training sessions from May 12th. Last year was definitely a learning curve for us. As we visited schools, we quickly learned our primary schoolers wanted to know more. And in an effort to fulfill our mandate of engaging and educating at all levels, we have decided to include their voices in the much talked about autonomy discussions. What will be presented? We just have to wait and see when these primary school students take over the House to hold their debate on Thursday, June 12, 2025.
Listen, we have a full calendar of events on our website. If you scan this code, it will take you straight to all the dates. There's our weekly web series on myths and memories. We tell the stories you love and easy to remember for you to share with your friends and family starting in May.
If you want a deep dive into what really happens in Tobago and not what's just in the books you've read, you'll want to be a part of our panel discussion. Tobago historians, former assemblymen, youth debaters will engage in thought-provoking discourse. Look out for This Is Us, Legacy Cultural Celebrations.
During the Tobago Heritage Festival, we would show how Tobago's legislature affected people's lives. People were restricted from becoming members of the Assembly legislature. But with the number of landed Tobagonians, things started to change. Find out more at our Tobago Heritage Festival presentation in July.
The Assembly building housed a critical part of our island's history. Through various mediums, we will host our first ever exhibition at the Tobago Fine Arts Center at Fort King George. The People's Gala is in September. It is a celebration that pays recognition to the men and women who define us. We will honor the members who fought for where we are today.
In October, we end our bicentennial celebration with a dedication ceremony to recognize the Assembly building as a heritage site.
Check out our socials regularly for updates or go to tobagolegislature.org for details.
All things flow from here. And when we think of that phrase, it's supposed to evoke some form of feeling, be it nostalgia or whatever it might be. The fact remains that when we think of Tobago, this building is the one place to which everything flowed. Be it churches, courthouses, library, finance,
post office.
This is us. Everything flows from here.
Zama, what kind of question you're asking me so in light of a new government?
Good morning, assemblers and Tobago, the greatest little island on the planet. Welcome to Money Talk with Madam Secretary. I am your host, Zama Chapman, your 2025 Primary Plenary Chief Secretary, and a proud student of the Lambo Anglican Primary School. And let me tell you, today's episode is going to be a special one. Joining me is a true history maker, the first ever female secretary for the Division of Finance, Trade and the Economy, Councillor Petal Ann Roberts. Secretary Roberts, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning, Zama. It's a pleasure to meet you. Actually, I thought you were going to Scarborough Methodist School like your siblings, but it's good to hear that you are representing Lambo Anglican School, and you're doing quite a fantastic job. I am very well, thank you.
Thank you. All right, viewers today. Today's topic is something very, very big that affects every single Tobagonian, including us, kids. We're talking about Tobago's upcoming budget presentation on June 23rd, 2025. But before we get into all the serious stuff, Secretary Roberts, could you explain or break down what is really a budget and what is the budget day all about?
Well, the budget is really a statement of the revenues and expenditure. So you go to Lambo Anglican School.
Yes, I do.
And the resources at the school, the state provides it. So as secretary, I release funds to the Division of Education, and they provide the resources. I don't know if you all have blackboards, so the chalk, some of your books, some of the resources, even to pay your teachers.
Oh, okay.
The resources come from the Division of Finance. So what I do, I have to plan every year, and that is what the budget is. It's actually a plan of what we expect to spend next year and the revenues we expect to receive. So it's revenues versus expenditure.
Oh, okay.
So we get revenues. You know where we get revenues from? We get revenues from two sources. The government, national government gives us, and we collect revenues right here downstairs at the Board of Inland Revenue. We also have a cashier system, a treasury management system downstairs where we collect non-tax revenues. So we collect our monies from revenues, non-tax revenues, and the government, central government, the Ministry of Finance actually sends a check to us so that we can spend. So the budget is really a plan of what we intend to spend for next fiscal year. The fiscal year starts from October to September. So October 1st, we are in a new year. It's called a fiscal year. It's not a calendar year like January. We start our year in October and we end in September. So this fiscal 2025 will end on September 30th, 2025. And we start a new year in the life of the Assembly on October 1st, 2025.
Oh, okay. Well, there you have it, kids. A perfect and clear explanation. Now, let's jump into the real questions. Councillor Roberts, you have made history as the first ever female secretary for the Division of Finance, Trade and the Economy. That's a huge milestone. Can you share with us what that journey has felt like for you personally?
You know, Zama, interestingly, on June 20th, it would make 1 year since I became Secretary of Finance. I was actually installed on June 20th last year. It has been an interesting journey, challenging. I'm indeed proud. I am humbled by the opportunity. I want to thank the Chief Secretary for, you know, the confidence that he has in me to take up this position. The most challenging thing is to balance running an economy. I have a family, I have 3 sons, I have a husband, I have a home, I have a small business. So managing all of that can be a challenge. But I depend on God solely for the strength and the courage to do the task. So I'm up to it, and so far I think I'm doing a fantastic job.
Very well. Well, on that same note, what have been some of your biggest challenges that you have faced, and what is your proudest moment?
Biggest challenge I've faced so far is meeting the development needs of this island. You know, we are, when you go to Trinidad, you would recognize how far behind we are in terms of development. And I wish that I could get all the resources, both financial resources, technical resources. I wish people's attitude can be different. I wish their attitude can be like mine, that you passionately want to see Tobago advance, Tobago grow, Tobago be enhanced. So my challenge is still seeing some of the shortfalls remain. I have not been able to meet some of them just yet. Managing very limited resources is another challenge. We only received $205 million, and that is not a lot of money in terms of where we want to see Tobago go. So managing $205 million and trying to get the most out of it is indeed a challenge for me. Proudest moment, when entrepreneurs, business people are under my remit. It's my mandate to see them thrive, to see them grow. And when I hear entrepreneurs come to me and say that they have gotten big deals, big business opportunities, those are my proudest moments. Monday for me, I'm excited for that because I think I'll be most proud about that. Last year, though, I did present the revised budget of the Assembly. We have two budgets in Tobago. We do a budget in June, and then we do another revised budget. After the national budget is being read, we revise our budget in line with the numbers, in line with the real allocations that will come to Tobago. So I did that last year, but the actual Tobago budget, I am presenting that next week, Monday, and I'm not there yet, but I still feel proud that I have that opportunity to do that. So my proudest moments are to see entrepreneurs grow and thrive, and some of them come to me, they come back and they give me the testimonies of the growth of their businesses, the opportunities that they have been able to seize, and that I feel extremely proud of.
Oh wow, yes, that's a very good thing to feel proud of. Seeing others thrive, not only you.
Yes, correct.
And what advice would you give to girls, young girls and women like me who want to step into positions that are dominated by men?
Don't ever shortchange yourself. Don't ever think that you can't. There's a quote by Zig Ziglar that says, your attitude, not your aptitude, determines your altitude. It means that how you think, not your natural abilities, how you think, how you present yourself, those are the things that allow you to soar, to get far in life. I really think that my attitude actually got me to this position. It's not necessarily the skill that I have. I am an accountant by profession. And my second thing is, and it should have really been my first, to put God at the forefront of your life.
Members, be seated. Councillor Patalan Roberts.
Thank you. Thank you, Presiding Officer. Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. I'm pleased to report that the committee just met and approved all schedules of the draft estimates of revenue and estimates of expenditure for fiscal 2026.
Honorable members and member for Mason Hall, I would love to see your eyes, please. Thank you. Honorable members, the question put is, be it resolved that this House approve the draft estimates of revenue and expenditure respecting all functions of the Tobago House of Assembly for financial year October 1st, 2025 to September 30th, 2026, copies of which were laid on the table at an earlier stage of the proceedings. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any against, say no. The ayes have it. Motion carried.
Motion for adjournment.
Leader of Assembly Business.
Madam Presiding Officer, I beg to move that this House now stands adjourned for a date to be fixed.
Honorable members, the question put is that this House now stands adjourned for a date to be fixed. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against say no. The ayes have it. This House now stands adjourned for a date to be fixed. Honorable members, thank you for what was a record-breaking budget presentation. Thank you all so much and have a pleasant evening.